Let's get started, everyone. Call to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Call to the community. We have no members from the community that registered for call to the community, and there's nobody else on the call. Staff reports, Public Works monthly report, Richard Alvarado. Take it over, sir.
All right. Good evening. In your packet, you'll have the Public Works monthly report for March. Couple things. The installation of the new playground at Staggs Park has already begun, and it looks like it's moving on track to be completed by the beginning of May. So that's looking good out there. Public Works crew has completed the renovation of the baseball field at Staggs Park as well. So 75 tons of new infield mix was added. Quick valve assembly was added for quick wet downs for anybody who would like to use that field. The annual green waste was held Monday, April 11th. That turned out to be a success. One day, staff had removed all green waste, and an estimated about 30 residents utilized the service this year. And staff attended the annual State of the City event, so that was a pretty good event. And one thing, this is for information only. Arbor Day is April 29th, and we will be observing it and planting trees at Turtle Park on April the 22nd at 9 a.m., along with our West Coast tree trimming contract. So if any of you would like to attend, an invite will be sent out. And other than that, that's all I got. Any questions? Be happy to answer.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions? Fire away, sir.
Do you know where you're planting the trees at Turtle Park?
The plan is to do it on the north side along the new sidewalk.
Okay.
We're looking to do it between the football goalpost and the backstop to the baseball field there. We're looking at three of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, space them out pretty good. Look for growth for the future.
Right.
That's why we decided about 3. So that's what we're looking to do.
Sounds good.
Can I ask a question? What trees are you putting in there?
Elms. There's currently 2 elms in that park. They're pretty big trees next to the restroom. So that's what they will potentially look like 20 years from now. And a pistache. So that should give it some color. Leaves fall through, the fall. We've recently planted 3 of those on the east side of the playground. So we're just trying to go with the palette, trying to give it a little color and some shade, some future shade. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions?
Okay.
Community and Recreation Services monthly report. Tricia Kramer, Director of Community and Recreation Services. Take it away, Tricia.
Good evening, Chairman Taddy and Commissioners. Nice to see you all. You received the report in your agenda packet. I'll just highlight a couple of things. Rec Center's annual activity guide was posted as of April 1st. And that's got all the information for the coming season as well as up through the remainder of the year. So all of our new programming is on there, and summer programming registration opens on April 18th, which is next Monday. So please feel free to share that info with families in the community as we're ready to get started with our aquatics and our summer sports clinics. So it should be fun. We also have a preschool camp. That registration is going well. Preschoolers registration for the school year is also ongoing. And current class had the Easter Bunny visit these last couple of days. So that was fun for them as they prepare for Easter this weekend. They also had the AZ Mobile Petting Zoo out towards the end of last month for the kids and their families to enjoy. And our oldest ones that are getting ready for kindergarten are preparing for graduation, and that's coming up mid-May. So that's something to look forward to. We had the annual community garage sale last Saturday, the 9th, and 46 households registered to participate, and of course others latched on as well. I know several community members that went out and found some stuff and also were part of the selling group. So hopefully if any of you made it out, you also enjoyed yourselves. Cornhole Tournament was a lot of fun last March. And thank you to Chairman Taddy and also to Commissioner Culbreth for coming out with your families and enjoying that with us. Spring sports are just about at mid-season. Got almost 700 kids playing. That's the most we've had in a long time. And all is going well there. And special events, our season came to a close on April 1st with our Arts in the Park concert. If any of you had a chance to make it out, thank you. It was a fun evening. City Nights Band played and Waste Management sponsored the concert. That was great. A couple of items of interest coming up are Memorial Day ceremony is coming up on May 30th, and we're working with Sunny to plan that. And of course, the Litchfield Park Historical Society has their ride and seek bike scavenger hunt coming up on April 23rd. So we encourage people to also participate in that and learn about the city's history and enjoy some fun times in the outdoors with your families. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have. And I believe Pat's available too if you have questions about sports or programming.
Thank you, Tricia. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Approval of minutes. Presenter, Marissa Romo, Deputy City Clerk. Take it away, Marissa.
Chairman Patty, Commissioners, the minutes are in the packet from March 10th. Just need a motion unless anybody has any questions.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Does anybody second? Commissioner Fix is seconding. Are there any questions? All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, minutes were approved. Camelback Park parking. Presenter, Mr. Sonny Colbreth, Community Liaison.
Thank you, Chairman Taddy and Commissioners. I believe the map is coming up on your screen. As you recall, we've been working on this for some time. And also, as part of this, the other thing that's going to happen is the wall, the current wall that goes along Camelback Road, the little wall, is going to move back some 22 feet. And some of the parking is actually going to be shifted into about 17 feet of that, and there's still going to be room on the other side of the wall to leave a buffer for traffic that's traveling along Camelback Road. The height of the wall along there has not been determined yet. There'll be some meetings on that when the time comes. But the parking, as you recall, there are 3 homes right on the other side of Camelback Park, and I met with them in person a couple of times, and most recently I met with them, and all 3 homes, all 3 residents were very pleased with the proposed plan. You'll notice some things that we haven't done in any other park yet. Instead of putting asphalt down, we're going to do grass block or pavers, and our grasscrete, 2 different things. And what that does is it gives a hard surface, but it also allows grass to grow up in between. So it'll have to be maintained still. I don't know what level they'll probably be mowed, but it will still need to be mowed. But what it does, it gives the appearance of grass still. In other words, it's not a black parking lot or asphalt parking lot. And the residents there were very pleased with that. They also were pleased that we're able to move the parking lot that far away from their homes. And you'll notice there's a way in, and then on the way out, it says access drive with crosscrete are equal, but that drive going out is actually for emergency only. It's not going to be, right now, it's not planned to be, it's just one way in and one way out. It's not a complete in and out, going in one and going out the other end. They were pleased with that as well. So there's approximately 40 parking spaces with, looks like 5 spaces for golf carts and also some handicap spacing. There's a walkway that'll lead from the parking lot to the play area. And by moving the wall back, we gain a little more than an acre of park space.
Wow.
And so this parking doesn't quite take up that much space, so we're still having more park space than we had, even though we're providing adequate parking. So this is what is being proposed. This will not happen until the wall will be the first thing, and we're still waiting for an easement, or actually waiting to get the land deeded to us from Goodyear Tire and Rubber, Goodyear in Akron. They didn't even know they owned a strip there.
That's been a while.
And they've been paying the taxes. Well, we're a small thing, I think, on their radar.
Yeah.
And that's not a big thing on their mind, but we continue to reach out to them, and we're working on some other things. We're discovering some things in the ground or underground there that are going to need to be moved or bypassed, one or the other. But that is the plan, and it can be discussed tonight, but we're not going to be taking any action. So if you have questions or discussion, we certainly can do that tonight, but there's no action. And it's back to you.
Take it away, Andy.
I have a question. Why aren't you having an entrance and an exit? I don't get it. To me, that seems easier.
As opposed to the emergency exit, you mean?
Yeah, like, why wouldn't you just make everybody go in one and out one?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with that curve there.
Well, the whole thing's on the curve. I mean, I know where that first house is.
What I'm saying is, if that was cars coming out of there all the time, they were concerned that it could create another accidental area. Now, it's going to be
Say
there.
only right turn only.
Well, it's the fact of them coming out.
Well, they gotta come out somewhere, though. I mean,
Yeah, they're
I
going
don't
to
get
come
it.
out down. Right now, it's designed to come out at the bottom. Now, if there's recommendations that we want to bring up, then we can. But I know the residents were pleased with that.
But the exit, though, is past almost all the houses, correct?
It comes out right at
Right at the end of the third house.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
It does.
I guess I would ask somebody that, I mean, because if you've got 40 people and 5 golf carts trying to leave with maybe somebody come in at the end of a soccer practice, and we're all trying to do it through the same driveway, you know, whereas if it's one way in and one way out, I don't know, it just,
Well, certainly.
am I missing something?
Well, we certainly can take the concerns of the commission back to, people that have designed this.
Okay, I mean,
But no,
I'm not a civil engineer, but,
right, you make a good point, and certainly we can bring that up.
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I was initially concerned with it, thinking that it wasn't an emergency only lane, because people walking would have to go through the road to get to the parking, and also thinking of the cars coming out and the high beams coming at those houses. I was concerned that they wouldn't like it, you know, with the lights coming right at their houses. So it does seem like a good compromise to have that as an emergency lane and keep it more like part of the park, where you don't have to have, you know, traffic without any barriers from the kids. You know, that the way it is now kind of keeps kids very far away, or traffic far away from the kids.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Faith. Commissioner Fix?
I'm going to echo Andy's comments. I always thought by looking at this map that you enter on the lower quadrant, you go into the parking lot, and you exit on the upper quadrant. I always thought it was that way. I never realized that upper quadrant was going to be emergency vehicles only. I think it makes sense to just go in, one way out. I've been to other parking lots that have that, and it seems to keep the traffic flow, you know, pretty simple. So that's my comment.
I'm taking notes, and I will bring the information back.
Commissioner Gertz?
I think it looks great. I have a couple logistical questions. I've seen this sort of paver thing in, we'll say, wetter areas of the world, right? Like where we get rain and they get watered. So, I mean, with this approach, I'm just curious, like, these will have sprinklers that are, like the rest of the park sprinklers are going to be hitting the road as well. Otherwise, it will have dirt, and that will be it between the bricks.
Yeah, I assume the sprinklers will be said to come on when the parking lot's not being used, though.
Yeah, definitely. I have the same question, so I'm gonna be looking into this and how it waters, because you're correct. I mean, the sprinklers do come on at night, but any during the day watering, overseeding, you know, those things come on at least 4 to 6 times a day, and we're gonna have people parking there, and we don't want sprinklers hitting vehicles. So
during overseeding, it's fair. I mean, we're not going to have activities at the parks. We should say, like, hey, this is closed.
Yeah.
Like, we can do that.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
I want to see how it's gonna definitely work.
I bet
Yeah, I got to take care of this. My other question was, so you alluded to underground stuff. Are the parking spaces going to be on top of the airline canal? And is that an issue or not an issue? I don't know where it runs, but I think it runs in that area. No? Okay, cool.
No. The other thing that someone mentioned, I think it was Commissioner Faith, lights or whatever, or someone did, but there's also going to be plantings along, and we're going to add some trees as well as some plantings along the base of the parking area. So typically there's no cars in there at night, and we've even discussed the possibility of not allowing parking in that parking lot at night, that it would be closed once daylight hours are finished. We keep our parks open till 10 o'clock at night, basically so people can walk and take their dogs out. And, you know, it's been that way since I moved here in 1982. And, but they're not used for activities at night typically, unless some special arrangement's been made for something.
Commissioner Schwartz has his hand up. Thank you.
Commissioner Schwartz?
I think Brian mentioned it. One of the things that he made a good, I think this was the point he was making, was if you're only going to have one exit, an entrance, I would do that one on the far left, because then, people aren't worried about walking across that road. There's no traffic there. Traffic is all far away from kids. I would agree that I'd prefer to have an entrance and an exit, but if you're only going to have one, I would make it the one on the left, so it's further away from pedestrians. So, but I think this is a happy medium. I was horrified of putting in parking lots, and I like the grass block. That is a happy medium for me.
Okay.
Commissioner Fix?
This question comes from another resident in the area, and they asked if a pedestrian gate would be added somewhere along this new wall.
I can address it. That is something that has been brought up, but again, we're not really discussing the wall tonight. So
Sure.
There will be a time to discuss the wall, and that's been brought to City Hall by residents as well. And so they'll have a chance to voice that opinion when we start talking about the wall, because some people want a 8-foot wall, some people want view fence, some people want a gate because they're used to stepping over the current wall and going to the dry cleaners or going to the stores on the other side of the street and so forth. So all of this information is being gathered and considered.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Colbreth?
Is there any plan yet to limit street parking once the parking lot's open on one side or the other, or?
Yeah, that's been discussed as well, like we did at Turtle Park, possibly. Especially on either side of any entrances or exits. There'll be limited parking, most likely on the streets.
Are there any other questions?
I've got another question.
Take it away, Commissioner Faith.
At one point, I think we were talking about putting some kind of court at this park, like pickleball or basketball court. Has that been considered at all as part of this design?
So that's not on the agenda, so I don't think we can discuss it now, but it isn't included in this particular design. But it is certainly something we could put on a future agenda to revisit, for sure.
Okay.
I too have done a bit of research in pickleball.
Okay, like you said, not on the agenda.
But we can't talk about it now. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Sonny, for doing the work and reaching out to the neighbors, and I am super excited about how that's going to look too.
Yeah, it'll be more than a year before any of that starts happening, though. But I will take your comments back. Thank you.
Okay, information only on this next one. Scout Lodge, Sonny Colbreth, Community Liaison, will be presenting.
Find my council communication. I don't have it in front of me. Okay, now I do. Thank you, Commissioner Taddy and commissioners. As you know, there is a council communication, so I'm just going to briefly go over it. We worked on, some of the commissioners here worked on a design for Scout Park like 5-6 years ago. And a lot of it has been done and some of it has not been done, but there was a very obvious space that was left blank for many, many years now. And it was in anticipation of possibly needing some parking for the Litchfield Square. And so now with the Litchfield Square moving forward, It's definitely, the place where Scout Lodge is right now, the location, is gonna be needed for parking for Litchfield Square. So, that brings up, what about Scout Lodge? A lot of scouts use that facility. It's very highly used by scouts. It was given to the community by Paul Litchfield. It was built in the early to mid-50s. And so to get some feedback on that, the City Hall had a stakeholders meeting. The stakeholders meeting included scout leaders, people from Historical Society, the Scout Lodge Preservation Committee, which is citizens in the area that are right now overseeing the use of Scout Lodge. Scout Lodge is owned by the city, but there is a preservation group that's been utilizing that and overseeing the use of it, as well as recreation, community recreation commissioners, not commissioners, yeah, there were 2 commissioners there. Were you at that meeting? Mm-hmm. Richard was at the meeting, I was at the meeting, Tricia was at the meeting. So there's a lot of people there to get some input. Okay, if we're gonna move, or if we need a new Scout Lodge, do we move the existing one, or do we build a new one? Well, overwhelmingly, it was, we really need a new one because the existing one doesn't meet ADA, it's not safe, it has some problems right now. It actually has a beam holding up another beam to keep that beam from collapsing inside the building. I think it's been deemed safe the way it is to be used. Richard's shaking his head, yes, but it is a concern. So we thought, well, moving it, the existing one, it'd probably fall apart. It's on a slab, it's not a crawl space underneath it. So the logical and the ideal solution would be, let's provide a new Scout Lodge that meets ADA, that has air conditioning and heating, that has the adequate bathrooms. Let's provide a new one and place it in the area that is, it would be the, what would that be? Southeast quadrant of the park. Mm-hmm. And so the reason for this tonight is just to bring you up to date on what was discussed at that meeting. And so I plan to kind of turn it over to others that were there besides me to share some of their thoughts and what feedback they got from that. As well as there's going to be 2 public meetings. Public meetings are going to be April 21st and May 19th, going to be at Sowers Hall. That information's in my my commission communication. And so the community will be invited to come to that. They'll be shared at that meeting what has been discussed from people that actually utilize it now. Commissioner Taddy, Chairman Taddy, if any of the others that were there are ready to share, I think that'd be appropriate at this time before we have questions and discussion on it.
For sure. I'll defer to Vice Chair Phillips first.
Thank you. I went and, I mean, I was a Girl Scout, not in that building, but I sort of didn't really have a preference either way, and when the design team presented what they presented, it was really pretty, but then once I listened to the historical side of it and the Scouts' perspective as far as the history, the room usage, and the storage that they could use, it made sense to me to have a separate building for the Scouts and a separate building with maybe some shared space for community use. And it was pretty exciting to me because there was a young man on the design team who was an Eagle Scout, and he'd done really, really nice homework. And so while we were there, he was literally like drawing a whole new configuration that would work really nicely in that corner with like an open patio space. And they talked about using the bricks that are in the fireplace for an entry walkway or a fire pit or something. So I think it was a really good mix of people listening to each other, honoring the history that's really, really important, and then going forward with something that's going to be new and really useful for not only the Scouts, but the community.
Thank you for that. So I'll add some of my experiences there. Certainly a great summary what happened, but I didn't know that that was the longest still functioning Scout Lodge in North America, I think is what they said.
What he said.
So when you think about that, that's really worth holding on to, right? So that was the perspective of many in the room that, hey, we want to hold on to this. Now, what was presented in the beginning of the meeting was that there is a great need for the city to have a room that is functionally a meeting room, but beyond that, a place where I imagine special events would be held. And City Manager Matthew commented that, for example, right now the city is going to be hosting the city manager and mayor meeting coming up in May, and they actually have to purchase space somewhere because they don't have a functional space that would have all the West Valley city managers and mayors. So after listening to everyone in the room and after getting a feel for what the needs of the Boy Scouts were, it seemed to me to be the best option to have either one building with two spaces or two buildings that are somehow connected. There was talk of a breezeway, and they mapped it out by the square footage. It looks like it works in that area. And one building would be a complete, for lack of a better word, a replica of the existing Scout Lodge, of course, up to ADA standards. And then the other building would be sort of a functional community center, for lack of a better description, that they could use for special events, meetings, and the like, with a area in the middle that would still serve, because the Scouts have purpose for their outside area where the fire is. They have ceremonial reasons why they have that fire there and that flagpole there. So the area in the middle, the two buildings, would then become that area. And then there was some talk of what the future of the Scout site may or may not be, and that was also discussed as State of the City, where there could be some other construction there in the future.
Tricia was there as well.
Oh, Tricia was there as well. Hey, Tricia, that's right, you were there. Can you add some comments?
Yes, I was there, and I would agree with the observations that you and Vice Chair Phillips had, that it seemed to be that there was a set need for Scouts to have their own space, and the possibility of the city and the community having some sort of meeting space to meet the needs of those in the communities. Not large space, but meeting room focused, I think, was the consensus if that were to happen. But yeah, whether that's two buildings or whether that's adjoined spaces, but still Scouts having their own separate space, they definitely seem to have a need for full-time use, and might be best to keep separate community use. But everything sounded promising. I do agree.
Some more to add.
Thank you for that, Tricia. Sonny, would you like to add some more?
Right, I would. One thing that we came away with for sure that I don't think we went in with, and I'm glad we had all those people there, is the identity of Scout Lodge needs to stay with the Scouts. Their decorations are their flags, the things they hang on the wall, the list of all the different Eagle Scouts, and all those things need to still be there. And so those would not be things that have to be taken down so someone else can use the room. It was decided that the Scouts need it needs to be Scout Lodge, and it may be called the Litchfield Paul Litchfield Scout Lodge, whatever, but it'd still be Scout Lodge. And so everyone came away with a good feeling about that. I think the Scouts leaders that were there, Tim Smith, who oversees the group that oversees the Scout Lodge now, and the use of it, they were very much in favor once it was decided that what we were sitting in and what we were seeing, those kinds of things would still be in the new Scout Lodge. For one, they would now have air conditioning. They would now have a heating that works. The restrooms, that was discussed. There'll be restrooms inside the building, but there'll also be restrooms on the outside of the buildings, which would provide the restrooms for the park. In other words, they're going to utilize dual plumbing and a common wall, those kind of things. So that's some information that I think you guys covered it pretty well, with everyone that shared. Richard, did you have anything different?
I think everyone shared exactly what went on in that meeting.
So that's what happened. It was about a 2-hour meeting that we had with about 40 people. And so it was discussed, plans were changed, all types of drawings were done. So I think at the community meetings, some of this information will be shared, and then we'll hear from the public as well, what their feedback might be. So now if the commissioners have questions or comments, be a good time for that.
Take it away, Commissioner Gertz.
Thank you. So you actually answered my first question already, which was, what about the bathrooms we need to put in the park? So thank you. Does this, and just having not been there for the layout, would this consume the rest of the open space, or are there still other amenities we might squeeze in there?
There may be room for that. It depends on, I know that the dimensions that they were giving were twice as big as the current Scout Lodge. But once we started talking about that there could be 2 different buildings, then one became Scout Lodge, maybe a little larger than they have now, giving them a little bit more space, and then some space. But as to how much space will be, I think there would be space for like a pergola or something for shade, that kind of thing. Still,
They had it kind of situated like at the corner, like this, if there were to be 2 buildings, correct me if I'm wrong. So that opened up to the rest of the park. So then that a pergola or something like that, a common outdoor use area, would then be kind of in that area, and then you would look out on all the rest of the park too.
And we
So
would
probably
find
not another building, and still basketball court still is being tossed up, but maybe, I don't know.
And Tricia thought there should be indoor courts.
I like that idea.
Now, again, it's coming to the public. Whether there'll be 2 buildings right away or not, I don't know, but the idea will be shared with the public. I do believe we definitely have to have a Scout Lodge, though. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Sonny.
Thank you.
Parking at Aleppo Park. Presenter, Anthony Taddy. So I'm actually going to defer to Commissioner Schwartz. Commissioner Schwartz, can I ask you to talk on this first? The idea to put this on the agenda came from him.
Thank you. Yeah, I just noticed, now that we've been playing, can y'all hear me? Give me thumbs up. Yeah, okay. I noticed that the parking places on the north side of Aleppo Park are not lined. And so when people park there, they park there kind of willy-nilly, and parking's already at a premium, and we end up with people taking up a spot and a half instead of a spot, and we could probably get 5 or 6 more cars there if we just lined those parking spots like every other parking lot in the world. So that was just my point, was if we just get lines painted on the north side of Aleppo Park so that people can park efficiently.
north side, the large wide space?
Yeah, it's the
Okay.
2 spaces there. So,
Right,
So-
like where the bathrooms are?
uh-huh.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I'm there a few times a week too, this time of year, and what I'm seeing is our practices start at 6, and I'm often parking illegally across the street from the parking lots. And I say that with great shame because I don't like to park legally. But there's a house that's almost finished construction right across the street from there. And I'm imagining if that were my house, I wouldn't probably want people parking that close to my driveway. So I'm almost thinking that perhaps we can suggest some sort of review into how we would add parking there in the future. And I realize it's a similar situation where I guess we just don't have a whole lot of space to do it in there other than on the south side where there's that larger green space. But, you know, if you go there on Saturday, you will see 20 cars or so illegally parked during game time and transition time. So, for what it's worth, perhaps that's the next parking lot down the road that we kind of look at in terms of increasing the number of parking there.
And I don't disagree with that. I just thought a quick fix to at least get a few more spots right now would just have the lines painted. It's quick and easy.
I agree with that too. Richard?
Yeah, so the lining of the parking lot, that's definitely something we can look into and potentially get that done as soon as possible. As far as the parking across from the house, we installed no parking signs for that reason. You have the golf course there, you have that home there. I believe those no parking signs will continue to be there unless otherwise. The south side parking lot, you know, you have very few spaces along Village Parkway. Those I don't see expanding there. I do see the cars parked along the road where they're not supposed to be. Tonight I drove by there and saw that, so I get the frustration when there's 4 teams trying to fill in for the spots, but as far as like looking into the parking lot, I think it was looked into years back. If that happens, I believe a lot of that park space would be taken away. Specifically on the west side, right across from the baseball field there. But that's, again, a future project or something discussed later down the road. But,
Thank you for that. Commissioner Gertz, did you have your hand up too?
I was gonna estimate it's about 18 spaces or thereabouts. It looks like that. I'm just trying to get a feel for how many spaces.
I'd have to look into it, but
Then how many around the whole park? There's those cutouts as
Oh,
you
that's
go
right.
all the way
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
you're probably
By the
looking at,
volleyball, there's like 4 or 5, maybe 6 cutouts.
I don't know, 12.
Okay, and then
think.
all the way around to the other end.
You're probably looking at 12 to 15 spaces
So
wrapped
there's
around.
room for 40-some cars. People
Yeah.
just don't want to park there?
It looks like it would have as much parking as we're proposing here, so that's where I was going. If that's not enough, then I don't know that we want to put more there.
So here's what I could definitely do. So this Saturday, I'll take some pictures of the parking because it's very common for all of the spaces that you just mentioned to be all full. But during the transition time is when you're getting hit. So like the next team to come is starting to get there for their warm-up before the previous game is finished. So while that's happening, people are like, well, I'm just going to park here for now, or I'm going to park here, and then they walk into the field area, and then the people in the existing game are leaving at that point. And yeah, they might give up a space here, space there, you know what I mean? Because now they've left, and some people go back to their cars and park, you know, legally, but, you know, potentially some other people just leave their cars where they parked illegally. Not pointing any fingers. Commissioner Gertz.
Is that something that may be adjusted if we space out the rooms a little bit, or does that cause other issues?
Pat's on the
I
line.
have the same question, and
So,
Pat's probably addressed.
yeah,
Pat, can you take that one?
So we do already space out the games as much as we can. I mean, instead of every hour, we start out every hour and 15 minutes, and then the games between the older age groups is an hour and a half. If we space it out anymore, I mean, that field itself, we already get done about 2:15 is when our staff gets out, maybe closer to 3 by the time they get there. And if we space it out anymore, it'll come into officials will start having issues trying to find them, as well as, you know, it just makes a really long day. If you're that last game, especially when it starts getting to May, in the hotter season, it'll really be tough to try to sell a 3 o'clock game to our older kids.
Is that 15 minutes between games then?
So the hour and 15, usually the U10 games are about 50 minutes, and then to 50 to 60 minutes. And then we start on so if they have an 8 o'clock game, the next game, you should be done at 9, and the next game will start at 9:15. And then it goes every hour and 15 minutes will be a start time for that. With the exception of the under 12 games, it's an hour and a half. So they're usually just a little bit over an hour, but they start a little bit later just to try to avoid this kind of situation. We had no choice of bumping that instead of instead of a 11:45, 1 o'clock, it's 11:45 and a 1:15 start time.
Would you agree, Pat, too, the house that's the new construction right on the corner across from the bathrooms, it kind of brings up the issue in new light, right? Because in the past, it wasn't as big a deal maybe to park on the other side, but now with the house there, it kind of is a different can of worms, right?
Yeah, I think if I'm right, I think those no parking from like this sign on to where the gate is, and then this, like from this sign to the end of the street. But I'm pretty sure you could still park in between those two signs on that side. But
no, Pat. No, there's no parking signs all down that road.
Yeah.
Is there? I mean, they might have changed that. I know that I thought it was just from basically one corner to like try to avoid people, because we used to have an issue of them parking all the way up to the gate so that anyone trying to get into the gated areas weren't able to do that. But yeah, as far as that house coming along, I mean, obviously it all depends on where their driveway is going through. If they're blocking that, it's going to be really tough to try to angle to get in and out of that driveway. I mean, I know from what I've seen, I haven't seen it the last few times I've been there. It's more them going down Village on the south end. I haven't really seen a lot of people on the north end parking on the opposite side of the parking.
Commissioner Fix and then Sonny, and then Commissioner Faith.
So very near Aleppo Park is the Millennium High School sports parking lot. And I know from experience that it's open on the weekends. They rarely have events on the weekends there on property. So perhaps you could get permission from them to use it as overflow rather than cut up our parks for more parking.
I did reach out to Millennium in regards to that, and the last time they told us that they were not able to provide us the parking because they were doing some construction, and I can reach back out to see if they finished that for future, but that's what they told us, that we weren't able to use that because they're not providing that because of building a new field or one of their construction sites that's close by. And then the next parking lot up to that, it would be all the way up to the staff parking, which that's not really accessible to us to help out with Aleppo.
Okay, thank you.
But I can reach out to see if they finish that in future to try to make sure to see if we can get access to that.
Sonny?
And I was just gonna add, the reason the no parking signs are on that other side of the road is we actually had complaints from residents that it gets too narrow going through there, and they were concerned about that. So we put those signs out probably 3 or more years ago, some of the signage that's been there. And then we put some temporary signs when games started back up.
Yeah.
So we'll have to just take a look at it and see what happens in the future. But if Pat can get access to the parking that Commissioner Fix suggested, that would help, but then you've got the people who say, I'm not walking that far.
That's what I was just trying to think too, like even down by those tennis courts, even that would be like, I couldn't see if my folks were in town, they wanted to watch a game, I don't think they'd be able to walk from.
Yeah, that's a long way. I think Commissioner Fix is talking about the parking right next to.
Across from the volleyballs, right?
the
That
newest-
spot.
Right, the closest ones.
By the tennis courts, yes. And if these folks want to come to our small little quaint town for sports, that's kind of, we have those growing pains and they're just going to have to deal with a short walk rather than, I don't think they would be in agreement with tearing up the park so that they could save themselves, 800 steps.
Commissioner Faith?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention I drive past on Village Parkway, pretty regularly. And even when there's cars that are parked down Village Parkway, from my recollection, there's still enough space for 2 cars to get past. It doesn't really create much of a hazard. And that'd be on the south side of the park. So maybe for the games, we can let people park there, rather than take away the park. Just a thought, if there is enough space there.
I'll take pictures. That area is already, people are parking there already, and it's filling up. But like I say, I think that perhaps this Saturday I could take some pictures and, maybe we'll start collecting some data on it. Commissioner Colbreth, do you have a hand up? No? Did somebody else just have a hand up? Oh, Tricia Kramer.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Sunny said. I'm pretty sure that a few years back that additional no parking, all those signs got put up because of emergency access needs. And I think that that's literally something we can't get around. We have to have a certain amount of space. And so that's why that happened. That's all, just adding that point.
Just to add to that too, right on the north side, next to the house, not only do you have people backing up and moving forward, you'll have those cars, so it creates tighter of space, but then you have kids who, you tell them to look both ways, but you have vehicles parked on this side, and you have a car traveling, which should be 15 miles per hour. Occasionally, you may have a kid try to run through there. So along the south side, even though to Commissioner Faith's point, there is room for 2 vehicles to go past, but at the same point, you got to worry about those kids kind of running around to the other side of the truck. So that's just a safety thing, and it's a good thing our sports are growing to where there's many teams,
Right.
But you got to consider all those other factors.
The other side of that too is it's a great thing to see 100 people out at a U12 soccer game on Saturday at 10:15. Like, that's outstanding.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I would want for my, my kids, is to have like aunts, uncles, grandparents like out cheering for them. Commissioner Gertz?
Yeah, I'm going to say 2 contradictory things. One, I think Christian fixed it on this, like at some point we're balancing out that the parks are there to be parks and, not parking lots. I think we have to handle it from the demand side as well, to a certain degree, whether that means spacing out games or drawing a line at growth at some point in terms of the programs that are using the park. Now, the counterstatement, we have the carve-outs on the north side of Village Parkway. I don't know whether it would be able to do carve-outs on the south side of Village Parkway. It looks like there's enough room, like the space between the sidewalks looks about equal. But from what I'm understanding, are people already, and I think, Commissioner Faith, you're seeing is people are already parking up the south side of Village Parkway, along that like straight edge of the curb as well?
Every week.
Yeah, okay, so we probably would be effectively taking away parking by carving that out.
I don't know. I don't know if you're gaining parking by, like, carving it out and having them pull straight in as opposed to parallel parking? Is that what you mean?
So you got these parking and no park, like on that side. No, I don't think anybody's parking on the very south.
Yeah, that's what I meant, yeah, on the south side, right?
No, they are.
They
Along that curb, yeah, that's full.
Well, then that's tightening up the entire road to almost a one-way.
So it's not just on the north side, it's, the parking is extending or wrapping around the bottom of that, when I say the bottom, the south side of that too.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, it looks like there's room to do those carve-outs there, and if it's a safety thing, that doesn't really solve the parking dilemma, though. If anything, you can get less cars in it once you've designated those spaces.
So perhaps what we're asking the city to do is just take a look at it over the course of the next few weekends and get a feel for what the need might be. And maybe it's on a future agenda. I mean, there is a short soccer season. It's only 5 weeks. So
Carpool?
I would recommend spacing them out to give at least 30 to 45 minutes in between, because you'll still have them show up. But I used to be a coach. I understand getting there, warming your team up. I used to love it, try and get that prime spot, but
there is no prime spot for a coach.
you get the early game.
Right?
Yeah.
So, were there any other questions on that? I think our immediate ask on that would be to take a look at if we were to line the parking spots, would that, kind of help the situation? And Richard said that he would take a look at that very soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. Community report on current events.
Commissioner.
Pardon me. Commissioner's report on current events. Vice Chair?
I had a question from the state of the city, which I like going to that every year. I think it's really helpful. I'm glad that we do it. And can I bring up what someone asked me as a current event?
I'm going to say yes.
But we can't discuss.
We just
No,
can't
that's okay.
discuss it.
That's okay. I was approached by 2 people about the tree at the lake again. So maybe in a future agenda, we'll put the tree at the lake on a future agenda.
The one that has the roots busting through.
Mm-hmm.
No.
No,
The
one that
our
the tree
sculpture
never
tree.
decided.
Oh, the carving, the tree carving,
sculpture.
potential
Yeah.
sculpture.
Yeah,
The blank canvas.
yeah.
Never decided.
We're getting there.
I told her it was curing.
Should be easier to
Good answer.
That's right.
So,
bring down.
We don't want to rush
but
into
other than that, I just think
getting our ducks in a row.
beautiful all around here, and good job, everybody, and Richard, thank you.
Thank you. Our guys, we're really coming along. I mean, they're being very productive. We're planning everything out. Just the staff has just been great. So
So,
we appreciate it, and all the comments and everything made here goes directly to the guys first thing in the morning meeting. So appreciate it.
Commissioner Colbreth?
Yeah, I had a chance to participate in the Cornhole Tournament, and that was a good time, so good job to Pat and Tricia and their staff for putting on a good tournament. Also, my youngest daughter is participating in soccer right now, and that's been going good, so again, good job to Pat and team. Other than that, I think that's it.
Right on. Commissioner Gertz?
Not a lot, except that everything's looking great. I was actually quite pleasantly surprised with the winds that we had, I think, 2 weeks ago. Like, I lost a good branch off a big oak tree, that we didn't lose a bunch of trees. Like, it was intense. And I don't know if I'm assuming that speaks to the health of our trees, so yay, that's good. Other than that, just enjoying the parks. Everything's looking great. My kids are super excited about the new playground, so looking forward to that.
Right on. Commissioner Faith?
I have nothing to report, but good meeting, everybody. Thank you.
Commissioner Fix?
I really don't have any report. I will always compliment the city in keeping our grounds so beautiful. I attended the last concert in the park, and I was so pleased with the turnout. It was really neat to see that many people there. It was a great event. So I guess we'll circle back and start these all over again. What, in September, October? I think they start again. All right. Thank you all.
Commissioner Schwartz?
If you want to have them. Jesus.
Man, a few words. All right. So, very briefly, just to echo, I was just same thing, just the turnout on all the events has been outstanding. And yes, I was at the Cornhole Tournament. I did not play this time. There were some injuries on our team, but Scrappy McBaggins will be back, Miss Tricia. We will be back.
Same with me and Ann.
So, are there any other questions? No? So our only topic for referral to city council, and I don't even know if we need to do it, would be the lines, but that probably wouldn't even, that's just Richard. Okay? So there's only one thing left, guys.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Commissioner Fix, was that a second?
It's a second.
Are there any questions? All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So let it be. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.